Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gregg Ship. I'm the Career Tech Coordinator for Conroe ISD. All right, so I'm extremely excited to be here with you, and we are going to rock through this. You have this presentation in the binder. There's a lot to it, but in the interest of getting us home where we need to be because of the weather and other things, we are going to rock it. So why do we justify, what do we evaluate for? What's our purpose in evaluation? You guys tell me, why do we evaluate? Program effectiveness, are we on target? How are we going to grow our programs? Absolutely. And so why do we evaluate? The least important reason to evaluate is because it's required by law. The most important reason to do it is because it's good for students. Fair statement? So what's out there for us to use? We've got PBMAS data. We've heard about that. Program access review. That's going to change names this next year. It's going to be a different process. But it's been a very good process for opening the door for program improvement. I'm anxious to see what that new process looks like. We evaluate to measure program effectiveness, look at our student achievement, and of course funding. I'm going to talk about funding very quickly, and of course justification for what we're currently doing, and then if we want change. So we already heard about the PER. We heard about that yesterday. Here's what I want to tell you about it. Look at that last statement there. You're essentially doing a full compliance review for the Texas Education Agency every year. And I share that with you to tell you take that process seriously. It is an evaluation, but within that PER, there are individual evaluations, and I want to show you a couple of those very, very quickly. Oh, and the agency used to, and I don't know if they still do it, but they would tell you, hey, you know what, we're going to pull your PER if we're coming to see you. We're going to compare what we find to what you said on your PER, so do take that seriously. So within the PER, there are individual indicators that deal with evaluation. I'm going to roll through these. I'm not going to read them to you, but if you'll look in there, each of these that I've highlighted talk about program evaluation. So even though the PER is an overarching evaluation, there are still individual evaluations within the PER that need to be completed. Look at 67. The LEA uses completion and graduation rates to assess academic attainment of CTE students. We heard it this morning. Where do we find our graduation rate information? On our PBMAS report. I will tell you in Conroe ISD, our graduation rate is 97.6%. Our dropout rate is 0.8%. If your dropout rate in career and technical education is higher than your district average, something is wrong. If your graduation rate is lower, something is wrong. And that can be, it can be an indicator of a lower expectation, not by design, but perhaps how that program is viewed by the district of career and technical education. So pay attention to that one. Perkins accountability. I just wanted to show you the labor market information. We've heard about that over the past 2 days. I want to show you exactly how I use that and how I think you guys can use that. Okay, and there it is. Do we have a system in place? We think about evaluation as that continuous improvement cycle, right? It's a feedback loop, correct? It's never ending. It's always ongoing. Are we reviewing all the data streams that are available to us? Now, I'm looking in this room, and I've listened to the presentations and your projects over the past 2 days. I could hand the mic to any one of you. And some of the ones who left, I was like, no, I'll just give the mic to them because they were incredible with what they shared with you guys. This is the most impressive group that I've had the good fortune to work with. You guys get it. I mean, this is a really well-informed group, and kudos to you guys. So what are the program evaluations that are out there? There's standard, the old program evaluation. There's the advisory committee, our PBMAS data. You can use external evaluations. Our Region Service Center guy who's not here. Are there any other Region Center people here? Region Centers will come out and do program evaluations for you. That's an external evaluation that's allowable with Perkins funds, right, still, I think. Okay. Facilities review, we were talking about that. Good grief. Here, and I'm going to talk about, and I mentioned this the first day, what people have to understand about career and technical education, and I said this the first day, we're just like a business. If our programs are static, they are in decline. Go down to the dealership. How often do they get upgrades for their computer system and their diagnostic? How often do they train their technicians? That's an ongoing process. The same is true of career and technical education. I am a district administrator. We were talking about budget earlier. I understand that, but I also know that we have to make a commitment to having continuous improvement in career and technical education programs if we want to provide a state-of-the-art and industry standard education. That's what we are compelled to provide. And if we're not doing that, we're really doing a disservice to our students. Keep the focus on students. When I came to my district, I always talked about post-secondary success. You'll never hear me talk about, ever, college-bound versus non-college-bound, because the moment someone says non-college-bound, they have expressed a lower expectation for that child, whether they realize it or not. So what I talk to my superintendent about is post-secondary success. And what I tell my superintendent and my board is, you know what? I'm going to give the students in this district the best of both worlds. I'm going to give them a post-secondary prep education enhanced by an occupationally specific and marketable skill. What we say about career and technical education matters. So we have to kind of wrest that conversation and take charge of that conversation. And this last year we do the big convocation where we bring all our staff together. And what did my superintendent talk about? He talked about post-secondary success. Woo-hoo, we're getting there. So inventory, beginning of the year and end of the year, holy smokes, I will tell you, wow, keeping up with what we purchase is so absolutely critical. We can't buy a set of Snap-on tools every year. They are expensive. So if you've got an automated system, the new Edgar is going to require us to really monitor, and really that's always been a program requirement. We should have always done an end-of-the-year inventory and beginning-of-the-year inventory, but that's also an evaluation. If we're doing a good job of hanging on to what we have, I think that's something we go to our board with and we give ourselves credit for. Other evaluations, student surveys and guidance software, I heard this over and over the past 2 days. If we have student interest in an area consistently over time, I never do things on 1 year worth of data. I want at least 3 years worth of data. Give me at least 3. If you offer a new program, you'll have 1,000 kids sign up for it. The question is not how many you get to sign up, but is it sustainable and how many are going to come back? When we opened culinary arts, oh my gosh, we had to lock the doors. But the numbers went down when they understood the rigor of the program. We're not going to cook and eat every day? No. We're going to learn about all aspects of industry. Oh my gosh, I have to study? Yes. We require our students to have ServSafe certification before they get into the culinary arts program. We did that by design to manage up a little bit. So monitor what your students are interested in. If you've got a software package that gives you interest inventory results, take a look at that. Labor market information, here's what I look for. Kind of the trifecta. I look for I don't look at enrollment data, I look at pre-enrollment data. Show me the highest pre-enrollment in the district over time. And I can tell you at Woodlands High School, that's going to be in our business pathway. We've got 400 kids that sign up for 200 slots every single year, okay? That dovetails with my labor market information for the Houston area and my interest inventory information from my 8th graders from my feeder campuses. Now I have information to go to my school board and that campus administration and say, you're going to have to pony up another allocation for me because I've got more kids than I can serve. And I'll take that pre-enrollment data and I'll put a dollar amount on it. You can do it. All you need is your ABA and you can go to your taper and you can get your attendance percentage and you can figure out exactly how much money that you're going to generate. Yes, ma'am.
It's on the summary of finance page as well.
And
TEA by your district.
As a matter of fact, let's just take a look at that right quick. And I know you guys, where's my timer? Okay, timer. You got to keep me going. So let's get out of this right quick. And I want to show you, this is what Ann's talking about. You can go to the summary of finance pages on the TEA website, and I encourage you to do this. Go back and look at 5 years worth of funding data for your district. Because if your enrollment is increasing incrementally over time, what should happen to your allocation? It should go up. If it's static or it's in decline, you know you have a PEIMS issue, something is amiss. So take a look at that. Now let me show you what that report looks like. And I just opened this up for Conroe ISD, and you'll see right here, here's my allocation. Right here it tells us spend 58%. So when I go upstairs and argue with my business manager about the percentage of state funding that I'm receiving, I can say, go to the summary of finance pages. You see where it says 58%? That means 58%. So that's good information for you guys. But go back and do an analysis of your funding to see if there are any anomalies there. I'll tell you, when I came to Conroe, they had changed from a traditional schedule to a modified block. And they reported those contact hours as if they were still on a traditional schedule, and they doubled the funding on that campus. And guess what? We wrote a check back to TEA. Thank goodness that happened before I got there. But I had to go out and work with that staff on how we code career and technical education. All right, let's go back. All right, so I also do classroom observations. And by the way, I have 8 high schools, 7 junior highs, about to build another high school. There's one of me and a part-time paraprofessional. So people say, Greg, what's that like? And here's what I tell them. If you like to sit around the office and drink coffee and shoot the breeze, this is not an organization you want to work in. And I listened to you guys, and I heard about all the hats that you're wearing, and all I can say is I feel your pain. So, but I'm in the classrooms. I am a PDAS appraiser. If you're not PDAS, if you haven't done ILT or PDAS, go get. You can be the second appraiser, but you need to be in those classrooms. You need to have your administrator's hat on. I look for the same things that I would look for in an academic classroom, and that's how many kids are on task and are they engaged. So, know what to look for when you're in those classrooms. Student surveys, teacher surveys, employer surveys. There are a lot of different ways that you can evaluate. We should be getting feedback from our business and industry partners. Right now we're working with NOV, directly with NOV, because of our relationship with NOV. We've got an internship for our welding students who graduate our program. What they've told us is they use SolidWorks, and we are not using SolidWorks. We're investing in SolidWorks because that's what they're looking for. So that feedback from our industry partners is critical to how we grow our programs. Yes?
Question for you.
Yes.
On the PDOS.
Yes.
All the campus administrators in Conroe, they do the formal PDOS, but
Yes.
you also, now do you ever find a contradiction where you have,
Yes.
where they're thinking that person is outstanding and you're going,
Yes.
so what have you done?
I work here's the good news. I have an extraordinary administrator. I work with Dr. Curtis Null, and he has invited me to address his principles. And if you're I listen to this audience talk about where's my elementary educator who came from elementary, and I thought, wow, what an incredible story. You know what good instruction looks like. You know exactly what it looks like. You carry that experience into those CTE classrooms. You look for the same things. Are the students engaged? Are they self-directed with teacher as facilitator? What's the model being used? So where we struggle sometimes with non-CTE administrators is they don't know what the students are doing. We're prototyping hinges for the International Space Station in one of our programs right now. I'm not sure anyone else. We build, what do they call them? Cargo transport bags that the astronauts use on the Russian rocket. Well, they did use on the Russian rocket when they went up to the ISS. We build storage containers for the ISS. If you're not involved in my programs, how do you know? To them, it might just look like we're sewing. So I think it's important for that administrator to have a rapport with those district campus administrators to help them understand, okay, you're going to look for the same things instructionally, but let's talk about some of the techs that are involved in this program and things we're trying to accomplish. Certifications and licenses sound great on Index 4. That's awesome. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to be talking to all of the high school principals because Index 4, twos have just become a big juicy target. And if they start cranking up twos, what's going to happen to our PBMAS data if they're not legit? PBMAS is going to go. So that rapport between CTE and campus administrators is critical, absolutely critical. We're working on it. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm in I guess a unique, and maybe not, looking feedback. I'm the only director in Brenham ISD that does PDOS evaluations on staff. That can cause some turmoil sometimes.
It does.
Because, again, if your campus principal is kind of out of the loop,
Yeah.
doesn't really know, but then again, if your campus principal is not on board and know what's going on, it's very hard to regulate your program at that time because, you know, it's difficult. So those are the conversations that myself and our new superintendent are going to be having very soon to talk about.
It's a legitimate concern, and I find that our campus administrators, they want to go out and they support our programs. They just don't know what to look for, and sometimes they don't know how to evaluate us because it doesn't look like the archetypical classroom. We're getting closer with project-based learning and PLCs to the CTE model, and that helps us, but we're not there yet. So what are some other program effectiveness things that are out there? Your taper data, of course, our STAR data, we've talked about that, graduation, dropout. Look at your attendance rate. Look at your attendance rate. If you're not monitoring that, you should be. Non-traditional participation rate. Where's the administrator that inherited the school district where they put the girls in family and consumer sciences and the boys in ag? Okay. You might see a trend there where we're overrepresented with boys in ag and underrepresented with girls in ag. So we need to be looking at non-traditional participation rate, especially for two things. When we look at our CTE programs, and you should be evaluating your CTE programs based on your enrollment each year, we should look like the rest of the district in terms of diversity. We shouldn't be overrepresented. We shouldn't be underrepresented. We should look like the rest of the district or the campus. If we don't, the question is why. If we're overrepresented, okay, why is that? Is it a counseling issue? Is it student choice? If we're underrepresented, is there a barrier to enrollment? And that's what we have to check for. Licenses and certification, we had a great dialogue about that. Here's what I want to tell you. We do a lot of certifications and licenses in Conroe that are not on the PER, and that's okay because our business and industry partners have told us we want this. The OSHA 10-hour, NOV loves that, but they want AWS to go with it. AWS is reported on the PER. So find what's good for your students. We feel like OSHA 10-hour is good for our students, because they're going to learn about PPE, working in confined spaces. We feel like they're going to be safer if they go out. I don't care if they're going to the picture show and making popcorn, they're going to be a safe employee. Contact hours, holy smokes. Boy, I'll tell you, that was a great discussion this morning. You should review your contact hours every year. We had an 18% ADA, we increased our ADA in Conroe by 18%. And my finance department said, prove it. We don't believe you. So I proved it twice. I went in and I pulled 4-year plans for each one of those kids, counted their contact hours by hand, and I did it twice. I did it mid-year and I did it at the end of the year. But look at your data. Look at your data, because you may be questioned if your ADA goes up and the money goes up and people are going, we don't trust that. Be able to pull that data. Students in a coherent sequence, I'm so glad that 3 is going away. But you should before you get to Fall Snapshot Day, here's what I do. When I came to Conroe ISD, we had when I interviewed with Dr. Stockton, I told him, you know what, my goal is to never do another focused data analysis and continuous improvement plan for the rest of my life. The first month on the job, I found out that we were stage 3 data validation because the PEAMS codes had been changed. There was a 42% difference on the PEAMS code from Fall Snapshot to then the test documents. They had changed 42% of those codes. So I organized what I called the counselor coding party. And I called in 50 counselors next year to a campus. And I trained them in CTE coding, and I hand approved from every high school campus every code too. I said, show it to me. I want to see it. So it saves you on the back end if you check those codes up front. That's pretty important. You should look at your codes 2 or 3. Thank God 3's going away. My counselors love 3s. And by the way, I am a former school counselor, so it's all good. Counselors have a tough job, and they work really, really hard. They're my friends, but we all have to be on the same page, and they're trying really hard to work with us. Look at your 4-year plans. I put my eyes on every 4-year plan for every kid in Conroe ISD, and we have a pile of them before we do Fall Snapshot. And I review those contact hours both in the fall, and I also have a process where if they want to change that code, they have to send it to me and prove it to me. Prove to me that that kid's a 2, because I didn't see it. So look at your go back and go to the summary of finance, do a 5-year analysis of your funding, look for funding increase or decrease, and then try to figure out what's going on there. If your enrollment's going up incrementally, you should see an increase in funding. If not, there's a disconnect between what you're reporting to TEA and your funding. Review your STAR test documents. Each year, I go over to our district assessment center, and I take my fall snapshot list, and I go through every single test document, every single one of them. They have them. I get my own little table over there. It's the Gregg table. They're ready for me. And they have their test documents bundled for me. I go by and I check to make it. We've been 100% since 2010, and I'm glad to say that. Review the codes for students prior to Fall Snapshot. Take a look at those codes, verify them before you submit them to TEA. You can change all the way till January, that first go-round, I think. You've got till January. And then again, of course, you can adjust in the summer. So look for trends in the data. Here's what I want to tell you. When you go into a classroom and you have a struggling student, what are you looking for? How do you know as an administrator? What are you checking? I'm hurrying, I promise. Come on, where's my countdown? You got 5 minutes, Greg. So here's what I want to tell you. You look for trends in the data. Identify your students who are struggling in CTE. Look for SPED and LEP, I guarantee you. Start there. But drill it down to the individual student. Look at the SE and objective and then do individual interventions. If you're in a stage of intervention for PBMAS, the way you come out of that stage of intervention is you drill it down to the individual child and you do individual interventions. I've read a lot of plans, boy, and they're beautiful and they're flowery and we're going to do this and this and this. But if it doesn't talk about that child, and if someone's not in charge of monitoring that child, then it isn't going to happen. So drill it down, and then implement, and then follow up. Is that part of evaluation? We were at stage 3 my first year. Rhea Copening, who I've known for many years, was my team lead for my PAR visit. I had a PAR. For years, I had prepared people for PARs, and then I got one. And it was a lot different. But here's what I loved about it. Just as I like to say, it opened the door for program improvement. But we have gone from stage 3 to stage 0, and we don't want to go back. And the way we did that was individual interventions on each of the campuses with a campus administrator assigned to monitoring those, and me monitoring that campus administrator. Is that a program, is that an effectiveness evaluation that I go to my board with? Yes. And you were talking about doing an annual report to your board. I do too. I do one in the fall of each year, and then I do one in January before CTE month. And then at the end of the year, I do my summary. Look for the trends. You're going to study. You're going to look for the trends in the academic area. Is there a trend by SC or objective? Is there a trend by teacher? Look at your attendance. Look at your absences in discipline. Here's the thing. If they're not in school, they're not going to learn. We found in my district that I had, and what's said in the room stays in the room, right? Is that right? Okay, we had special ed students who had been assigned to DAEP for like 20 days in a row, and that's a no-no. So if they're not in school and they're not in the classroom, they're not going to learn. Overrepresentation, underrepresentation, that's part of your evaluation. Just look at your data. If you look like the rest of the district, you're okay. And that's something I report to my board. Here's what my demographics look like this year. So we can see that there are no barriers to my programs. Low enrollment over time. That's why you want to look at pre-enrollment. When the master schedule comes out, every class is going to be full, right? But before that, if you've got a teacher who has 3 kids signed up, and that has happened 3 or 4 years, we can't sustain that. That's an instructional issue. Something's wrong there. We need to make a change. But when the master schedule comes out and there are 25 kids in there because we needed to put the kids somewhere, it's masked. So take a look at low enrollment over time. Take a look at your dual credit and your ATC certifications by program of study or endorsement area. Interest exceeding capacity, we talked about that. Student interest and endorsement over time. License and certification by program of study. Again, I'm going to tell you the process that was in place when I came to Conroe for offering new programs. That campus has it, I want it, and you're going to pay for it. And I said, well, that's not a very good model. As a matter of fact, when I got there, the ball was rolling on culinary arts on every high school campus. I got there in January of 2010, and they were already pre-enrolling for culinary arts. And I said, well, where's your facilities review? We don't have any commercial kitchens in this district, not a one. Oh, we don't need them. We're going to put them in the FCS lab. I said, wait. No. That's not culinary arts. You know, but you can have kids in there who are cooking and eating every day, and you'll have a waiting list a mile long, but that's not culinary arts, and we're not going to do it. And I thought I was running something that first year, and I got by with it. But what we did was we did an evaluation of all our facilities in the district. We located a cafeteria which was being used for in-school suspension. I had 3-phase electricity, I had a grease trap, and I had a ventilation system. Guess where my program is? And now we bus from every campus to a true culinary arts lab. But in saying that, I had to bring some sense to the decision-making process. So I put together a flow chart. This is in your binder for the principals. It's an if-then chart. If you want this, then have you looked at your data? Are you willing to commit staff? Have you looked at the equipment and developed a budget for it? And if not, you need to go back to square one. The rumor in my district is CTE has all the money. We don't have all the money, but that's the rumor. You probably hear that. Oh, let CTE buy it. They've got all the money. So the if-then chart is just a flow chart that you can walk through, and it shows every step we go through to make decisions for career and technical education and how we evaluate before we start our programs. Change it, make it yours. I'm not saying it's perfect. It was just a desperate attempt to bring some sense to what was a very crazy decision-making process when I got there, the decision-making flow chart. Okay, put a dollar amount on pre-enrollment and go to your administration and show them this is what we're losing by not offering another section. Or, do you have late arrival and early release in your district? Take those numbers and show them a 3-hour practicum or work-based learning and put a dollar amount on it. You'll knock their socks off. And my marketing tool for parents go, no, they work so long. But wait a minute. You want to go to college? How about 3 additional hours with work experience? Does that look good on a college application? It's one of the things they're looking for our students, including their volunteer time. They want to see that they've worked and kept their GPA up and been involved in extracurricular. We can market it. We have to market our programs, and that's one way to market it. And also, when you identify something that's a need or an initiative in your district, drop it into your district or campus plan. If this is what drives us for success in the district, CTE should be in there. And it's a great way for us to show that we have evaluated, put something into place, and then our board and our administration is aware of it. Okay, so data allows you to identify program trends for growth, specific student needs. Keep the focus on students. Here's the question I always have for administrators when they say, we're going to do this, this, and this, and I go, okay, is that decision based on the needs of the students or the needs of the system? Are you making student-driven decisions or system-driven decisions? Now, you got to be careful with that. My friend Gary Yancey says you have to choose the ditch you're going to die in. So, but call it out, because when you put it on them, and then you watch them struggle with what's really in their mind and their heart. It's okay to do that, as long as you have a good relationship with your administration. So if we need the justification for additional equipment and software or implementing changes in programs of study, here's the thing. Data is dynamic and it's always changing. I talked about this, and just people go, well, Greg, can I just fill out this form? Yeah, you can do it if you want to meet bare minimum requirements for compliance. Remember I said compliance is the least important reason to do it. Forms are static. You file them, everybody eats their barbecue, fills out their form, and goes home. It meets compliance. And if our programs are static, they're in decline. So why do we evaluate? To be data-driven. And I've listened to you guys talk about all of the masterful things you're doing and how you're using your data. It is required by law, but it highlights strengths and weaknesses, and it helps build business community partnerships. We flew, and there's some links for you. Now, I know, how did we do? All right, we did okay. Questions for me, because you guys need to go. I know.
Just real quick, I know y'all were talking yesterday about it, and we've mentioned it before on your advisory boards, and you just said you walk in there. I teach 7 ag classes,
Right.
plus do what I do.
Right.
I can't go in there and say, we have to have this. They're looking at a football stadium, baseball field, and all that. You know, I lose my job, and I'd be called a rental and see if y'all hire me. I think I can work there, I got all this involved. Anyway, how does this work for everybody? How are you just going around and saying, we have to have it if we want to? We had, just to go back real quick, we had advisory council meetings, you said our waste of time. We didn't. They said we need a greenhouse, we need this, we need this. The school district didn't do nothing. So they won't come anymore. They're like, well, we recommended it. Why should we support your school when they're not supporting you?
I will tell you what my superintendent told me when I came to this district. I work for a very large district, and I am a staff of one. He said, be patient. It has taken me time to build rapport within my community and with my school. Right now we're rocking it, but it has taken me 6 years to get to this point. I'll go back to the culinary arts program. When I mentioned this yesterday, they gave me a budget of $300,000. That's it. That didn't even cover my equipment, plus remodeling. When the advisory committee members, this was the Houston Restaurant Association, Texas Restaurant Association, Montgomery County Restaurant Association, plus all the people from the Woodlands and all the big wheels, they went right over there and sat down with the superintendent, who is in the Chamber of Commerce with them. And it wasn't I that did it, it was those advisory committee members. Otherwise, it does become an exercise in futility. What I tell advisory board members is be patient. What I tell my staff, be patient and take this time. But that's a legitimate concern, because they will be if they don't see that their efforts are being valued.
And it is reasonable to put a package together that explains the funding piece. You know, one of the things my board always appreciated was knowing that when we serve these additional students, we're self-funding this.
Yes.
You know, we're bringing in the money that will turn around and deal with that. So just, that is not, it's a funding formula different than social studies kids or math kids. So it's helpful for the school board to understand what the budget is and how many kids you serve, how many students you anticipate being able to serve with additional staff or facilities, and then what that money is likely to be.
But
it's the other things that I'm not getting the support that I think we should have, or that you all are getting by knowing
Well,
we get it.
it is a battle. I will tell you that we've worked really hard to build our business pathways, and we've done that. Enrollment is up now because we are offering the Microsoft Suite. We are a circuit board testing site. It's taking time for me to get there. The kids are crazy for those certs because they're not certs and they're marketable certs. So whatever you can do to grow
To
that.
light a fire.
Yes, and then the board's going to respond to that, hopefully. So I'll deal with the question, yes, sir.
Well, I don't know if it would help your situation. I don't know, what you have available, but one thing that I noticed is we went through a program evaluation. Well, and actually it wasn't even the program evaluation. It was an open house for our PLC engineering at a campus where we just started it. One of the school board members came to the open house, and she pulled me aside and she said, we don't ever get to see this stuff. She goes, you need to get every school board member to the campuses and let them see the activities. She said, it's different when we're sitting in the boardroom and somebody brings us some pictures or a kid talks about what they're learning. She said, when I'm walking through this lab and I'm seeing it firsthand, it changes the perspective that they have a little bit. If they could be involved in a program evaluation, and here, because we do industry representatives, if they could be paired up in that group with industry representatives and they're hearing that roundtable discussion about why the industry representatives think it's important, and then they're walking through the facility and going, man, this doesn't look anything like, what we think it should. Sometimes that lights a fire.
When they go in and see, I spent last summer, I brought my trailer and pulled a team together, and I personally carried 6 trailers worth of junk out of the lab that had equipment that was original to the building in 1970. That's where we need our school board committee. You said something powerful. I will put school board members on my advisory committee. I will also find the biggest critic in my community, the one that is against career and technical education. I'll put them on the advisory committee. And that works very, very well for building rapport with those who may not understand or want to criticize. Why are we spending all this money on this? And your kids are just doing woodworking and all that. Those tired old images that are still out there. But that about the school board, that's a good point. All right, how do we do on time? We do good?